Q World, Marlon Blakeney here. Thank you for your time once again. We're really enjoying you guys supporting Q World. The podcast and the YouTube channel are really doing well. So again, I appreciate you guys coming on board. Today I have a special guest. Very excited to meet you guys, to meet him and listen to his story, his life, and understand what he's been through, and then also some relative things that we're going to talk about that's going on today. He has some insight for you too. Love to welcome my man. He is CW4 Corporal Cop, and now Jeffrey Short in the house. Pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
No,
Pleasure to be here. It's exciting.
And it's just so funny. Like we haven't seen each other for almost probably a year or so.
Yeah.
And then just in the last week, we've run into each other, and now we're here doing this. This is how the world works. I mean, I think positive energy, good people, I think we seem to attract each other. So really appreciate it.
Well, I think luck is the intersection of preparation and timing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree.
That's what I mean. You have to make some of it yourself.
Yes, sir.
It's just when those things come together, boom, magic happens.
Yeah, it does.
Good stuff.
Well, I want Q World to really and talk very detailed through the processes of what we're going to do, but go through and tell them about you, where you're from, and how you grew up, and all that good stuff.
Okay, I grew up on a farm about 30 miles west of St. Louis.
Yes,
at the time, it was a little city called St. Peters, Missouri, population 486. In the 1980 census, it's about 40,000 now. It's exploded. But we grew up on a farm down by the Mississippi River. 7 kids, 6 boys, 1 girl. My sister is right in the middle. There's 3 older boys. My sister, then 3 younger boys. And mom and dad, so there was 9 of us in a 1-bathroom farmhouse. We didn't have air conditioning because I went to college. I didn't know what it was like to sleep in AC. You tell it to young people there, they're like, I don't understand what that means. I don't even get service on my cell phone. I didn't have air conditioning, dude. I had 3 channels on my TV.
That's so true.
And for a while, I was the youngest kid, so I was the remote control. They could slap me in the back of the head and get me up and change the channels on those. We had a pair of vice grips on the TV channel.
Oh, yeah.
Because we'd changed it so many times.
That's like the knob. I remember it goes off. I remember that.
Yeah, that's back in the day. It's like 3 channels, and it's crazy, man. But it was nice. It was great growing up. My parents were, I don't want to say they were caring, strict, and loving. If you screwed up, they let you know you screwed up, and you got punished for it. But then you talked about it afterwards. This is why we did this. This is why we did this. This is why we did this. Do you understand? Got it. Understood. And every time I did get punished, I knew that I deserved it. I knew when I was making a mistake at the time. Yet I was like, what are they going to do to me? Well, I found out later what they were going to do to me. But what it did, it instilled in me, and I found out later in life, that was the best thing that could have happened for me, because it instilled in me a sense of discipline and respect, not just for my elders and my parents, but respect for other people who I had never met, especially people in positions of authority. Don't just take what they say verbatim, but you also have to give them a certain amount of respect until they give you reasons like, you know what, you're not all that you think you are, okay? And I'm going to call BS on what you just said. So it was just great having that sense of stability, which I really like, and I think that's kind of missing
it is.
in some families today.
And it was consistent too, it was
consistent from my oldest brother down to my youngest brother, and just knew mom and dad were there, and I knew that we were dirt poor, didn't have a lot of money. I got my first pair of basketball shoes, or first pair of tennis shoes that didn't belong to somebody else when I made the 7th grade basketball team. Went out with my mom with a $20 bill. Went out to the Ben Franklin store there in O'Fallon, Missouri, another little small town.
What kind of shoes did you get? Did you tell me?
I know. They're Stan Smith basketball shoes. Stan Smith tennis shoes. Low cut, low top. But they had like a green stripe on them. I was big into tennis and Stan Smith. Tennis guy. And that was the first pair of shoes I ever got to buy that were mine. It was glorious, man. But it was a reward. I made the basketball team, and I was wearing my brother's hand-me-down. We all played basketball, so I was wearing my older brother's hand-me-down basketball shoes all through tryouts. My mom said, if you make the team, we'll go buy, you get your own brand new set of shoes. It's the greatest thing in the world. And that's where I learned the work reward system.
I'm with you.
And I've done that my entire life on everything. I wanted a new TV one year. This is 1999, 2000. I wanted a new TV. But I was like, I can't just go buy a new TV. I have to earn it. So I made myself run minimum 3 miles from January 1st of that year to December 31st, no matter the weather, no matter how long I worked. So January 2nd of the next year, after running it every day, minimum 3 miles, 365 days, I got to go buy a TV. And the reward was just, it felt so good.
Yeah, like you
can't explain that to somebody because it's on a Sunday morning, 6 o'clock, it's cold and snowy, I'm out running 3 miles because I'm going to get me a new TV. And this was 20 years ago. Things were still tight with me. I was still a young warrant officer and pilot. I was still just a patrolman under the police department, so the money was still fairly tight. So I made myself earn that. And it goes back to when I made the basketball team. I got a new pair of tennis shoes. Crazy stuff like that.
It really is. Now, so as far as disciplinary, I think things are so different, like you said today in this world, with the way we raise our children. And are you saying you got spankings?
I got spanked. Yes, I did. Yeah, there was never any severe corporal punishment. I got spanked. We get sent to bed without any dinner. Grounded, obviously. It's not like you cut me off from my phone or anything.
Right, the phone.
But it was actually, I didn't mind when you get sent to our room, and I read all the time, so it really wasn't a punishment to me.
Right.
Because I started reading when I was first book I ever really got me into reading was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne.
Oh, yeah.
The fantasy of that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm growing up on a farm. There's no internet, no cable, nothing.
Exactly.
So my mind was my own playground, and I wanted to be an adventurer. I wanted to get out and do all this stuff. And that's what led me to a military career. Because I wanted, there's an old saying from back in World War I, when the boys are coming back from, the doughboys come back from overseas.
Yes, sir.
How are you going to keep them down on the farm? They've been to Paris. They've seen the ladies of Paris.
True.
How are you going to keep them down on the farm? And boys started leaving the farm after they got back from the war.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was my thing. I loved where I grew up, but I just wanted to go out and just see and do everything. I couldn't afford to. I remember I was 12 years old one day, sitting on a tractor, brush hogging the levees. 12-year-old driving a tractor. They don't live 12-year-old across the street today by himself. I used to drive a grain truck filled with 10 tons of grain at 12, 13 years old. Up to the elevator, drop it off and drive back. No driver's license, nobody cared. The farm town. And you only let kids, like I said, cross the street today. Zero responsibility, and that goes back to my parents. Freedom, responsibility, or freedom comes from proving you can be responsible. And if you can prove you're responsible, I was doing stuff at 13 years old. I was a fur trapper at 13. Me and my buddy would trap muskrats and mink because we're down by the river.
Skin them and sell.
Well, we would just sell them, and we'd sell the whole carcass for $5 a piece, and they would go skin them and tan them. But we'd check all our traps in the morning at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. 2 kids, 12-year-olds, no cell phones, crossing frozen lakes and streams with loaded rifles because coyotes were out.
Right, of course.
Checking our traps. We could have fell through the ice, could have anything. No cell phones, nearest adults, a mile and a half away.
Yep.
And now you got a kid on a leash in the mall.
Right, ill down. Can't be 5 foot away.
I know. It's helicopter parents. And my parents were like, because at that time, I'd shown I could be responsible with a firearm.
That's true.
And they trusted me to go out and, plus I'm earning a living. They don't have to give me a allowance. I'm earning a living. I'm making money. I'm learning financial responsibility. At 12 years old, I had a business.
I was similar. I used to go in the winter. I used to love it. So I used to mow lawns. I used to I used to go knock door to door, just go knocking the doors. We lived on post, so I just go, and it was just like, the area. But
they got to keep them trimmed there too.
They did.
You get Sergeant Major come by your house.
Exactly, they do. You're right.
I know.
So I just knock on the door, and I would charge $5, like you said. And they weren't big lawns, but I'd just make like $20, $30 a day, and I was happy.
Isn't that great?
On the weekend, And
then it's your money.
Yeah, and on the weekend, in the winter, I would just go knock on the doors and shovel when it snowed. I do 6, 7 homes for $3, $4, and I was happy. And you come back with that cash, that green in your hand, like it's awesome. So you're exactly right.
You earned it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's, I think, part of the problem we have again today is a lot of stuff people are given and they don't earn it. I earned that TV I bought. It's a lot of hard work. I earned those tennis shoes I bought.
So did you go? So from high school, did you go directly to college?
Yeah.
Okay.
I graduated in high school from Fort Zimmerman High School in 1982. Started college that fall. Played football in Missouri Western State College up in St. Joseph, Missouri. Pretty close to Leavenworth. It was great because at the time the drinking age in Kansas was 18. It was 3-2 beer.
Yeah, I got you.
But St. Joe's right on the river, so every Saturday, every Wednesday night, we'd go to Atchison, Kansas to Kibby's.
That's funny. Atchison's right by Leavenworth, right?
Benedictine,
yeah. That's funny.
So we'd go over there and drink 3-2 beer all night long, and go back to Missouri. It was a good time, man. I played football there my first 2 years. Didn't like it. My grades were horrible because you played football in school. My grades were just horrible. So after that, I just started working 3 jobs. It took me another 5-7 years to get through school. But my grades shot through the roof when I got done playing football.
Of course.
Yeah, it was.
I think people don't understand it's a full-time job.
Crazy.
The demand you have.
And I was at a Division 2A school, Missouri Western. I can't imagine a place like KU or Syracuse or Mississippi State, wherever.
Yes, sir.
It's just a job, and you're gone every weekend. It's just, man. But I was so much happier after that. I just really enjoyed it. My last 5 years, I was in no hurry. Just had fun. I was a mechanic and a tow truck driver. Got my show for my CDL when I was 18. And I was a mechanic and just learned on the farm. And back then, you had all these full service gas stations where you can take your car in, get a tune-up, get your tires changed, or we had a tow truck. So I never had trouble getting a job. And I liked those on weekends because in the mornings there was nobody there. I'd work by myself. I'd get my homework done. And my boss would be like, I'm like, do you mind before the church people start coming in at like 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, do you mind if I do my homework? Like, we're so happy you're always here on time. And again, I proved myself responsible, so they gave me free way and leave and some latitude and some freedom at work because I'd proved that I was always going to be on time, never going to call in sick, and they loved the fact that I was always there on time. So they're accountable. So I get all my homework done on Sunday morning, and it was just I run work 7 days a week, which I just got used to it. It's like this is what you do. I'll never forget my my first spring break. Would be I started in summer of 80 or fall of 82. Spring of 83, my first spring break. Our house got flooded. I lived through 6 natural disasters. Our farmhouse got flooded 6 times.
Wow.
And I'll get into that when I start talking about flying.
I got you.
So I tied my first sandbag when I was 6 years old, 1969. Laid my first sandbag in 1973, and then hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of sandbags after that. 10 years old, laying sandbags.
Wow.
Trying to keep the
How much
water
does
out.
it weigh? I know they got to be pretty good.
This just depends. You can get the great big Corps of Engineer ones this big, which it takes like 4 or 5 people. They're little lower sandbags like this, probably 40 pounds.
Still heavy though.
Oh, it's heavy. You do that.
10 years old?
10 years old.
That's
Had to work. You worked, man,
Yeah,
on a
sure.
farm. No matter what it was, you worked. What was I talking about?
sandbags, a flood disasters.
Oh, flood disaster, yeah. So that spring, all my buddies at school were talking about they're going to Padre Island or Panama City Beach or whatever.
Spring break day.
Spring break.
Yes, sir.
And they're like, hey, Schwert, where are you going? I'm going to go lay sandbags for a week.
Wow.
They're like, no, really, where are you going? No, I'm going to go lay sandbags at home for a week. So I went home and laid sandbags for 7 days. Well, we got all our stuff out of our basement, our deep freeze, our washers, dryers, and we had a bunch of kids. So whenever we were done there, in our community, when you were done getting your stuff ready during a flood, you went and help the people who didn't have as many kids around. Sure. So we'd go help them get all their stuff out of their basement, help them lay sandbags, and get the guidepost set up on the road. What you do is you set up fence stakes where the road is.
Yes, sir.
And you put pieces of white cloth around them.
Okay.
So even when there's water up this, 2 or 3 foot deep, you can still drive your tractor or a boat through there because you know where the road's at with the stakes.
I got you.
Like in Kansas where they have the fence
They
lines.
do.
For the snowstorms. Yeah. So kind of just getting all that stuff ready so when the water comes, you're ready.
Yeah.
You're set, ready to go.
It's that preparation. Yeah, that's it.
Another thing in my life, I prepare for everything. And that goes back to growing up on our farm.
Yeah.
We prepare, here comes the water. Okay, we gotta get sandbags, we gotta do this, we gotta have water for us to drink, we gotta have food. We gotta get these stakes up so we know where the road's at, so you prepare for everything. And it's like, it's like flying.
Yeah.
You just prepare for everything. And I was going to go back to that when I told you I was brush hogging that one day on a tractor before I got sidetracked about a whole bunch of other stuff.
You're fine.
We on our farm. We were right on what's called the Mississippi Flyway.
Right.
That's where all the ducks migrate from Canada down south. So we had a duck hunting club on our farm owned by a bunch of rich people.
Right.
And there were 7 or 8 duck blinds on our lakes.
Right.
So all these rich people come in the wintertime, they go duck hunting. We're like the caretakers also.
Right.
So I'm brush hogging on his tractor one day, like 12 years old, and this helicopter comes and lands in one of the fields next to this clubhouse.
Right.
And all these people get out. And they go to the clubhouse, and this one guy stays in, he gets out, he ties down the rotor blade, it's the pilot.
Right.
I'm 12, 13 years old, driving a tractor.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I knew right then and there, I wanted to be that guy. I want to fly a helicopter. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, man.
That was at 13.
12, 13 years old. 'Cause I saw that guy, he was self-reliant, he was by himself.
Right.
He took care of their aircraft, everybody went and did their thing. He took care of their craft, got out, did some paperwork. Then he was done, he went and chilled out. I was like, I want to do that. And it sounds silly, it was just a passion.
Right. Just burning inside.
Burning,
like
man. I've
that.
been flying 30 years now.
Wow.
I'm still excited.
Wow.
Every time I go fly.
Wow. So let's go back and talk about how you got from college. You're doing your odds and jobs after jobs.
Yeah.
And then really you're excelling, being prepared, and understand. Then how did you
My
move into
sophomore year of college, I was majored in secondary ed, minored in criminal justice.
Gotcha.
That's when I decided I was going to get serious. So I went and started talking to a recruiter. This is like summer of 1986. That's when I got serious about it. And I was home for the summer. The last summer I ever lived up around there. I was working at a gas station, and Monday through Friday I worked at a beer distributorship, cleaning up beer lines, going to bars, cleaning up beer lines. Every Saturday and Sunday from 6 to 2, I worked as a mechanic and drove a tow truck, and I worked 3 nights a week at the same place.
Right.
I worked every day that summer.
Wow.
I don't mean I took a Friday off. I worked every single day that summer.
Wow.
7 days a week. I
That's
had no money.
Yeah,
Mom and Dad had no money.
That's true. So that's all you had.
Yeah. And I got down to college with 0 debt. Zero.
Wow.
None. No student loans, nothing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I'm not paying anybody's student loans.
Right, I got you.
They can complain all they want. I ain't doing it, man.
Right.
That's when I got serious. I was like, okay, I'm going to look into this. So I went down to a recruiter in St. Charles, Missouri, and just started talking. That got the whole ball rolling. He asked me, because there's 2 types of pilots in the Army. There's warrant officers, which is what I am,
Right.
which people have never heard of. And then there's the other ones, lieutenants, captains, majors, that everybody has heard of in every movie. You know, the pilot's
Sure.
always a
Exactly,
captain or
exactly.
major or
That's true,
lieutenant.
that's true,
You know, Lieutenant Pete Mitchell
Right,
from
right,
Maverick, all
exactly,
this stuff.
yeah,
Then there's chief warrant officers, that's
Top
what
gun.
I am. Everybody's like, I have no idea what you are. So he asked me, he goes, because what happens is I get promoted in rank, I keep flying in the cockpit. I'm a CW4 now, equivalent to like a lieutenant colonel.
Right.
That's kind of what I get paid as.
Right.
And I just keep flying. Lieutenant colonels are flying the desk.
Right.
They get out of the cockpit. They get out of the office once a month and come fly with me.
I got you.
And I'm like, go back to your office.
Right.
We'll take care of all this stuff here.
Right.
It's frustrating for them because they love to fly too, but they chose that route.
Right.
The point is, the recruiter asked me, he goes, do you want to be a general or do you want to fly your entire career? I'm going to fly. He goes, I got this for you.
Wow.
It's Warrant Officer Candidate School. I was like, what is it? He goes, you apply to Warrant Officer Candidate School and Flight School. Once you get accepted, you go to basic training on Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Fort Jackson.
Then right after that, we had 5 days off. We went down to Fort Rucker, Alabama. Went up through Warrant Officer Candidate School, which is
Yeah, I had to be
miserable.
Yeah, I was about to say,
you ever
it's
see
not-
Officer and Gentleman?
Yeah, exactly.
I was doing push-ups in the mud with a dude hosing me down. You really want to be here? Yeah, I do.
That's
Well, give me some more push-ups, okay?
Right.
Just all day long.
So,
They
yes, sir.
wanted people to quit. They don't want slackers in the cockpit.
Right.
Their theory is if you can't handle doing push-ups in the mud with somebody yelling at you, what's going to happen to you when you're flying to downtown Baghdad under goggles and bullets flying by?
So it's like
You're going to lose your mind.
That's similar to like a really intense like SEAL or Ranger training kind of deal.
It's not at that level.
Yeah, I got you.
That's those guys
Yeah.
just salute. I've flown tons of those guys, and they're just that's a whole other world. But
I got you.
but it's For us, it was a washing out process, not like Buds, basically going to a demolition school where you got to walk up and ring the bell and stuff. But it was still, they wanted you to quit, and that's how there was their way of clearing house. And I was like, I ain't quitting. You can do anything to me, I ain't quitting. I'll do it. You can't kill me, and you have to feed me at some point.
Exactly right. And I get to sleep. I do get to sleep.
As long as you know that, then it's like, just keep going, man. It's like, all right.
So for all the listeners, and they're talking right now, like, because there are people going through that right now. Like, there's times in everyone's life we all want to quit.
Oh, man.
We reach this limit. We don't know what we're going to do. What drove you? Like, literally, I know you wanted to be,
I had to prove to myself that I was just as good as anybody else.
I like that.
Because I was in college, or I was in flight school, in WAC school. I went to Missouri Western State College.
Right.
I'm in WAC school, Officer Candidate School. Guys who graduated from Michigan State.
Right.
From Texas A&M, Corps Cadets.
Yes, sir.
Wisconsin. I mean, one guy was an aeronautical engineer. Then I majored in secondary ed, And they were friends of mine, but I was, from being such a small town guy, I think I just had to prove, not to other people, I had to prove to myself that I was just as good as anybody else. And that just drove me to never quit at anything I ever did. I just don't have it in me.
No, I like that.
It's not bragging, I'm just...
No, that's exactly right. I like it.
Just saying.
Because that's what it takes, though. That's what it takes.
It's so easy to quit.
Yeah, it is.
It'd be so easy just to, I'm just done here. I don't want to do this anymore. But you can't. My theory is, as soon as you quit that first time, domino effect. It just makes it easier. On the flip side, once you push through the pain of something, domino effect, same. You start seeing that reward of not quitting. So it builds on itself. That's why I think when you quit that first time, it's like so hard to recover from, because you remember how it's just so easy to walk away from that. At any time in WAC school or even flight school, I could have said, I'm done. Because flight school was the same way. We didn't get commissioned as officers until we graduated flight school. So we were treated like officer cadets the entire way through flight school. It was just, you come home from a day at the flight line and your mattress turned upside down, everything in your room has been, because the training advising and counseling officers would come through and just trash your entire room. Then you'd get home, they're like, we're on inspection 5 minutes, and you got like this many books to study on aerodynamics, and you got this to do, and what they want you to do is, they're trying to make you prioritize. What's the most important thing I have to do right now? Well, I need to study. Well, you're going to fail your inspection. I don't care. I have a flight evaluation tomorrow. That's the most important thing to me. They're like, got it. Good call. So what? You don't get to go over this weekend because you failed an inspection, but you passed your flight evaluation. You get to go the next day. It's all about prioritization. People are having a problem with that these days.
They really are.
Sometimes there's too many options and you don't know what the most important one is. And to me, the most important one is, sounds selfish, but taking care of yourself first. Once everything's okay in here, just
You're not lying.
look at the opioid crisis right now. Because people aren't right in here, they're not right in their head, and they're trying to satisfy that with some external influence. It just doesn't work. So
I think that's probably one. I mean, you hit it right on. I mean, for me, just talking and being out in the world, seeing people, I think that's one of the biggest issues. I think a lot of people don't really know who they truly are.
Well, because they're doing this all day long.
Exactly.
And I grew up doing this all day long. That's why people, I've been complimented on how even as a police officer, people were like, even if I had to take them to jail, like, man, he's the nicest person ever. Well, it's just, got to treat folk like folk.
That's exactly right.
I'd get all folksy with it. Got to treat folk like folk, Y'all just like I am.
Exactly. That's
get the little southern drawl in there, and they're like, yeah, I think you're right, man. So I can throw that drawl in there when I have to.
Yes, sir.
Use that couple beers to come down. So.
That's the truth. I like it. Yep.
So I get done with flight school, and I graduated. Coolest thing ever happened to me in my life. I graduated from flight school. I got my wings on one day. The next day we got pinned our officer bars. Right. And what you can do is you can request somebody to pin you. So my parents came down. Mom and Dad drove down to Fort Rucker, Alabama. Was my uncle and his wife, and from St. Charles. It's a 10-hour drive. I made it like 9 times.
Right.
So they came down for the ceremonies, and I requested that my dad, who was a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps during the Korean War, I requested that he pin me as an officer. So he comes up, pins my bars on my shoulders, steps back, saluted me, and called me sir.
Wow.
Dude, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just...
Yeah.
this guy, we battled, don't get me wrong. We got along great, but we battled, you know. Especially after all the older boys left the farm and I was the oldest. And my little brother was like 7 years younger than me. It was just, I was responsible for everything now with all the older boys gone. So Dad and I battled. It was battle wills, but absolute respect. I had that guy salute me and call me sir. Unbelievable.
That's funny, yeah, right.
Even now, I mean, this
Like
was
I agree, yeah.
30 years ago.
That's
and he died in 1995. So it was, it's crazy. It was
It's
most
kind of like
amazing.
the passing of the guard.
Exactly, he passed the torch, and it was
Yeah,
like,
torch,
holy
yeah.
cow! And he knew as an enlisted, as an NCO,
Right.
the difference between being an NCO and being an officer. And this guy
Right. Yes, sir.
called me said, "Whoa, it's just amazing,
Wow.
man."
Yeah, no doubt. No
So then I stayed active duty for 3 years. Flew up, my last year I was up in Alaska, Fort Wainwright in Fairbanks, Alaska, flying over. And they flew through the Arctic Circle,
Right.
just all over the place.
Right.
All the stuff I wanted to do on the farm, I'm doing.
Right.
I'm out there touching, feeling, doing all this stuff, and it's just amazing.
Right.
So I transferred. I wanted to get on my civilian career, so I put in a request to transfer from active duty to the National Guard.
Right.
So I got a slot in Springfield, Missouri, flying for the state of Missouri. That's how I ended up here.
Okay.
And I minored in criminal justice. Like, you know, it's time to get on with my civilian life, or I ended up being a cop, wasn't a civilian. My career. So I applied to Springfield Police Department and got accepted. That was 6 months, and that was another thing that was really hard. Nobody just showed up at my house and said, I had to go apply. The first time I tested, there was 1,200 people. For 28 slots, we went into this big auditorium. If you passed this test, you went on to the next test, and on to the next test, and you just whittled people away until you got down to 28 people.
So what made you go from, I mean, the criminal justice, I get it, but
Yeah.
I mean, going from military, you know, then just, bam, I want to be a cop now. I mean, that's a big...
That one was more, I don't know how to say it. Well, I minored in criminal justice, and I was always fast. I'm an adrenaline junkie, without a doubt.
I got you, yeah, I can tell you.
The difference is I like being paid
I got
to get my rushes,
Right.
and I like having really good health insurance
Right.
for my rushes.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if something ever happens to me as a cop or if I'm flying, I'm covered completely. And also, this sounds really bad, job security.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Once you're a cop, and once you get off probation, you just do your job. You never get fired. Never get. I'm not saying fired. You're not gonna get laid off if you're doing your job, doing what you're supposed to be doing. And plus, I enjoyed it, and I liked talking to people. I cannot sit at a desk.
I understand.
A desk looks like a coffin to
It does,
me.
me too.
I've never had an office, never had a desk, or never want either one. My office has either been the front seat of a police car or the cockpit of a helicopter, and I want it to stay that way until I go to Fiddler's Green.
No doubt. But here's even what's funny. You're like me. I think what people also need to understand is that it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to go in situations or go do jobs or different things and just figure it out. Just work your butt off and figure it out.
If I could give one piece of advice to people, make yourself, and I do this to myself all the time, make yourself get out of your comfort zone. Make yourself uncomfortable. Make yourself not want to do that. Make yourself not happy for a little bit until you get used to it. And people get so in their little cocoons that they don't get outside of that. Me, I make myself do
the
that.
same way.
I'm gonna go do the hardest thing I can possibly do. What am I gonna do? Be a cop? Yeah, I gotta spend 6 months in the academy getting. You're gonna yell at me again, big deal. Again, can't kill me.
No doubt.
Get to sleep, and I get to eat some point today. So
doubt, yeah.
yell at me all you want. This guy's like yelling, like, "Are you done?"
Yeah, we're so silly.
Oh, your prior service. I'm like, yeah. He goes, never mind.
But it's so funny. I mean, and it's a unique. I don't know what it is, but it's not. Everyone doesn't have that. It's very few and far between. But even like me, day to day, like I do things all the time. Like I told you, I'm vegan. All my friends laugh at me. I've only been vegan 4 months. Like literally, I just decided one day I'm gonna go vegan, and I've been vegan ever since. I never looked at me, never did anything with me, and it's just the way it is. If I decide I'm gonna do it and make that decision, I'm going all out. I'm not gonna just half-ass it. So.
And if they give you flack about it, that's
Right,
their
so
own
whatever,
problem.
yeah.
My theory is, I don't ever give people flack about what they want to eat or what they drink. Like I drink Bud Light. People are like, look, all these beers you have. I'm like, I'm sorry. You can give me shit about all. Pardon my language. Give me shit about all you want, but I like like
Yeah.
beer.
No, that's right. That's right.
And you can drink all the IPAs you want to.
Right,
I call them hipster beers. Yeah, I
What are
drink
you talking about?
I drink PBR because it's cheap. The hipsters drink it because they think it's cool now. Like, no, I was drinking that on the farm because it was
Exactly
dirty.
right. Shoot, I remember.
They're up there twisting their mustache and their little derby hats.
I remember Natty Light, all that stuff.
I drink
man.
Natty Light still.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
That's float trip beer, man.
Exactly.
You drink half a can, the other half gets warm. You don't care because you paid 29 cents for that can of beer. So this guy's laughing because nobody cares.
Nope, that's right.
Yeah, so I did that as a cop. I loved it. I worked second shift the majority of the time. That's 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. I was a patrolman for 4 years, and remember, I still have the same flight hour requirements I did on active duty.
Right.
So on my days off from the police department, I'm flying missions for the state of Missouri for the Army. Working always three, usually 4 weekends a month. I did it for 21 years. Cost me a couple relationships.
Wow, not bad.
Because girls are like,
Right. You never get to see. You
never get to see me on the weekends.
Right.
You know, and I'd be off during the week. They're like, well, I got to work tomorrow morning. I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you. It was hard.
Yeah, no doubt.
And it's just, and you have to make that choice. And I was just like, guys, I don't know. But a couple times they made the choice for me.
Right, of course. Yeah, you're like, man, you're like,
Kick
oh,
me to the
that's
curb,
good.
you know. So, but yeah, I did that for 21 years. Retired October of 2014, 5 years ago. At 21 years on, I turned 20 or 50. That's the combination. So I retired. 30 days later, started getting my first. It was the weirdest thing, getting a check in the mail for doing nothing. Even though I invested in
Right, for sure.
I invested
Years,
a
yeah.
maximum amount in a
Years,
pension
yeah.
fund, 14% of every paycheck for 21 years.
Wow.
That's a chunk of
That's
money on
really
top
good.
of
That's it.
federal, state, local, but maximum investment, maximum return. Like the 30th is
True.
Today's the 30th.
Right. Boom, you got it.
Yeah, direct deposit.